Luocha is quite literally the best healer and support you could ask for, but there's a catch. And in this video, I'm going to talk about his place in the meta, things that you need to know about him, whether you already have him or not, as well as cover some important questions like how challenging it is to build him as a free-to-play player, and most importantly, I will talk about Luocha's hottest new teams that are absolutely crushing Memory of Chaos. But first, this video is sponsored by Tower of Fantasy, a free-to-play shared open-world MMORPG available on both PC and mobile. Now, there's a new major 3.0 update I'm excited to talk about, starting with a new zone called Domain 9. And it's got a unique style of ancient China with Eastern cyberpunk technologies. And here, you can ride dragonflies, obtain a cool new mount, and you can fight new world bosses like this one, obtain their powerful buffs, and unlock hidden energies to win awesome rewards. Now, the first location you'll visit and where the story continues from is Farewellville, which is full of puzzles and beautiful vistas. After following guidance from Executor Lon along with Shirley, the hunt continues for Abyssins. There's also a new relic, Speedwalkers. If you're tired of climbing walls like me, this gadget literally allows you to quickly scale any wall with ease. There's also a new smart servant system. These little fellas will fight for you. There's plenty to choose from, including Mia. In fact, I got an early access to play this update along with the new character, Liu Ho. She's the protector of Farewellville, and she wields this giant paintbrush. I really like her skill where she transforms into multiple ink doppelgangers and unleashes a flaming bird attack. You can also create calligraphy letters by performing various attacks, and they empower her in several ways. So yeah, this update is massive, and you should check it out by using my link in the description. If you're coming back to the game, there's also a new mentor system where you can find someone to help you out and gain rewards by doing so. And returning players can also expect their own special events and even a battle pass for luxury rewards to speed up your adventure. So make sure to check out Tower of Fantasy and help support my channel. So let's first talk about Luocha's healing, his place in the meta, and the new amazing teams you can build with him. Now, I won't be delving too deep into Luocha's kit, there's lengthy guides you can find on YouTube for that, and instead, I want to show you things that I believe a lot of content creators haven't talked about. So, the biggest thing about him has to be the field he deploys. Anyone who attacks enemies when the field is active, the character will heal themselves, and in my case, with this current build and roughly 2770 attack, the character will heal themselves for 1058, but because of the traits that you can activate, everyone else in the team will also regenerate 468 health. Since this field lasts for 2 of Luocha's turns, this is pretty amazing, and having reactive healing in tough Memory of Chaos fights is invaluable. And speaking of reactive, when any teammate, including himself, drops below 50% health, Luocha will activate his skill without spending a skill point and heals for about 3528 health points. I mean, that's pretty insane. Basically can heal any support or DPS character fully. And what's even better, Luocha still gains energy from this reactive skill. There is a 2-turn cooldown for this reactive skill to trigger again, but it's nice to have it. So, with the healing showcase out of the way, I want to talk about the state of the meta and the team that's basically crushing it thanks to Luocha. I'm sure you noticed this guy is all over the place. The Shapeshifter can be found in the 1st, 3rd, 5th, 8th, 9th, and even the final stage of the Memory of Chaos. And if you don't know what this guy does, he basically summons soldiers with self-revive, and he also heals himself when he attacks as long as these minions remain alive. But here's where Luocha comes in. His ultimate has an AoE buff remover, and not only does it strip away the self-revives from the soldiers, but the Shapeshifter also loses the ability to heal himself. I don't have to tell you how much of a big deal this is, because every single fight against him became a joke when I had Luocha. And the team that's been kicking his butt the most is made up of Japard, Silverwolf, and Zila. The reason why it's so good has to do with the weakness lineup Shapeshifter has. Since it has imaginary ice and wind weaknesses, Silverwolf with this team lineup will always inflict quantum weakness due to how her skill works, and because of this, not only does the Shapeshifter has no way of healing himself, but you'll also be breaking his toughness so often, it's not even funny. And the thing is, this team archetype is flexible, although you will need Silverwolf. Still, you could replace Japard with March 7th if you want that extra survivability, but you could go for Pela to inflict that massive defense shred, or even Herta. And instead of Zila, you could use QQ, who is conveniently on Luocha's banner. In fact, you could also replace the Ice teammate with Bronya or Yukong. Basically, against Shapeshifter, you've got a lot of options to go for, and if you don't have Silverwolf, you could build something like Yukong, Luocha, Danheng, and one more flexible support who can reduce Shapeshifter's weakness bar. And the funny thing is, the last chamber with Shapeshifter has Kafka as the boss. So instead of Ice, you could go for Bronya to make sure Silverwolf always lands her quantum weakness debuff, and because Kafka can use that annoying mind control ability, both Luocha and Bronya can cleanse it. But the thing is, if you haven't caught on already, this current cycle of Memory of Chaos is blatantly built around Luocha. I mean, seriously, Shapeshifter in more than half of the stages showing up? Color me surprised that Luocha is that good. However, what happens in the next cycle? Does he still remain relevant? I mean, honestly, to a certain point, yes, but but it's not the healing he's amazing for right now, at least to me. It's the ability to take care of the shapeshifter's annoying buffs. But the truth is, there's people clearing Memory of Chaos without 2 healers or even Jabard. I mean, they aren't getting all the stars, but you can do it if you've been playing the game since the launch. But for now, I quickly want to go over a few other things about him, and I'll share my thoughts about Luocha at the end of this video. So there's a couple of build considerations that need to be taken into account with Luocha. First of all, because all of his healing scales with attack, if you build with attack like I did, he will have around 5,000 health, probably less because I did manage to score some HP substats from the relics, so he will be on the squishier side, which is not ideal because you want him to focus on healing the damage dealers. In this case, going for an HP or defense sphere could be a good choice, while keeping the usual outgoing healing body and speed or attack boots. What's also important to consider would be his energy. While the ultimate only costs 100, you basically need to have an energy rope for any kind of build because of the current cycle and the fact you need 2 stacks to deploy the healing field. The problem here is that even if you obtain the energy rope, in order to achieve the optimal basic and then skill rotation, which is the 3 turns everyone and their mother is aiming for, his best light cones to help with that are locked behind the Gacha. Now, without a doubt, the 5-star signature is his best in slot, but the 4-star called Post-Op Conversation is hiding behind the Gacha system, and what's even worse, the first superimposition is not that great. I mean, sure, if you place him next to the tank and he gets hit with splash damage, then yeah, he recovers enough energy fast enough, but otherwise, you kinda need 2nd or 3rd superimposition, but that also means he will need Sprightly Von Vac ornament set, while the 4th or final superimposition allows you to go for the Fleet of the Ageless. The irony here is that even after spending so much cash just to obtain all characters for the purpose of making guides, I still only have 1 copy of this light cone. So in my case, I went with shared feeling, but at this point, you could also go for perfect timing. I mean, at the end of the day, this only concerns those who want to build the absolutely optimal rotation, but lots of random things can happen in fights. He might get targeted with single or AoE attacks and recover the energy fast enough anyway. But it's still kinda annoying if you ask me. Silverwolf players got an insane freebie, which is the 4-star light cone here, while with Luocha, you're gonna have to rely on the weapon Gacha banner instead. Finally, I tried to build him as an offensive damage dealer while also providing healing, but really, it's just acceptable at best, and he kind of reminds me of Chi-Chi, who also scales her healing with attack. In theory, it sounds great when a healer scales with attack, but in reality, you need them to be chunky and able to withstand a lot of damage, which is why HP scaling is much better, and why in this case, you will probably need an HP or defense sphere, or a good number of rolls on HP or defense substats. Although, keep in mind, this won't be necessary if you don't care about clearing whole Memory of Chaos. Otherwise, if you do decide to build him as an offensive healer, Imaginary Damage Sphere would be a no-brainer choice, and I might revisit this build idea once more in a future video. So, what do I think about this suspicious auto-apocalypse lookalike? I like him a lot, but at the same time, I know that a lot of the praise he's getting has to do with the shapeshifter showing up in so many Memory of Chaos stages. And while he is an excellent auto-healer, he doesn't have that emergency AoE heal like Bailu or Natasha, which can be crucial against quite a few enemies or bosses who deal AoE damage. And to make things worse, some enemies like this annoying ice thingy, they will often freeze characters who will need to skip their attack, which means they won't get the self-heal from the field, and while Luocha can cleanse the buffs, well, he cannot cleanse them for everyone like he can remove the buffs from enemies. It also doesn't help the fact his best light cones are locked behind the Gacha, which means you will need to settle for something else, although I wouldn't get worked up too much about this since, as I mentioned before, achieving that perfect 3-turn rotation by doing basic skill rotation is awesome in theory, but you can still gain energy with him in various ways. I also kinda didn't mention this, but he is stupidly broken with Clara. When the feeling is deployed, the auto-healing can also occur from counter or follow-up attacks. And if there's one thing about Clara that she loves doing, it's countering everyone with Mr. Swarog. Seriously, putting these two together in a team is too much fun, especially in Simulated Universe, and you can go for all kinds of wacky builds with Luocha, even turning him into a damage dealer I mentioned before, thanks to the amount of team heals and tanking Clara can do. But overall, I wouldn't recommend pulling for him just because of the current Memory of Chaos cycle if you feel pressured to do so. Yeah, he's awesome right now, and I totally understand if you don't have a second healer, but at the same time, if you manage to clear at least 5 stages without 2 healers, then maybe with Luocha you'd be getting some extra resources and 300 jades, which is like, what, 1.9 extra pulls? I think it's pretty clear by now that this game is as casual as it gets, and while there is a fun meta that you can jump into when you want to fully clear the Memory of Chaos with all stars, let's not forget that the game shines best when it comes to the story and characters. So if you don't feel like you want him right now, seeing how Kafka and Blade are coming next, and who knows what other cool characters afterwards, then don't pull for him. It's probably going to be the same way with any new character. An endgame challenge that's designed around a new character to promote their capabilities. Also, one last thing worth mentioning is that his Eidolons are great, but nothing crazy. Maybe the last one is, but definitely not worth spending upwards to $1,000. So yeah, I like Luocha, he has some cool abilities and strong teams right now, but at the same time, don't feel pressured to get him. There's always a rerun that you can save up for. Anyway, thanks for watching my video, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd appreciate it if you could press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thanks again, and see you next time.